to Pro Booth Talk, photo booth insight, tips, and banter recorded by boothers for boothers. Brought to you by ProBoothTalk.com.
Welcome back to Pro Booth Talk, everyone. Hey, Lap.
Hi, Jason. Hi, everybody.
So we wanted to talk today specifically about donating your time, donating your equipment, donating your services. We see a lot on different forums talking about exposure doesn't pay the bills. So should you do free events? Do you do free events? And if so, what kind of free events should you or are you doing? What kind of free events? Let's start with your company. I feel like a lot of industry professionals or leaders are going to be kind of split on this subject, actually. So I'm curious about your company, Lap. Where are you at with free events?
I think several years ago, I was more open to free events. We get approached a lot by social media influencers, by venues, by nonprofits. So we get approached a lot for free events. A few years ago, when we weren't as busy, we didn't have the demand that we have now. I always, in my mind, always thought, it's a great opportunity to showcase some of the work that I can do. This was before I had a team. It was just me showing up to these events. So it wasn't technically costing me anything except my time, which now I know my time is very costly. But I used to do open houses. I used to do bridal shows. Well, I don't know if bridal show is a free event. You're actually paying. But open houses, sometimes sponsoring for groups. Every now and then I used to do sponsored events for brands that would approach me, or a nonprofit. We used to do one for the Children's Birth Bureau every single year. What I learned from it was free events usually attract more free events. So I'm kind of in the boat now where I don't really sponsor too many events. I'm very selective. I don't want to say I don't. I'm very selective about the events that we choose to sponsor. It costs me money to send a team, resources, paper, things like that. So I'm not for or against. I think I have to be very selective about the events that I choose to sponsor. It's not everybody who approaches me. I'm not gonna agree to that, just because people will pitch at you oh, it's exposure. You're gonna get your and I've been doing this for 11, 12, 13 years. We do, high profile events. So obviously I already have the exposure for, random, organizations or for people to reach out to me. I already have that exposure on social media. So I don't really feel like exposure would be why I would do it. But showcasing some of the cool stuff that we do, because we do really unique things. I think free events is a really great time to experiment with some of your new experiences that you're, wanting to roll out to your clients or your prospects that you haven't really used at having the capability to work out the kinks of running your new type of experience or activation. I think a free event's a great opportunity to showcase your new service and to test out the workflow itself.
Yeah, I agree. So we do quite a few free events still. And I mean, I guess there's a variable. There's a lot of different kinds of free events. So I guess that needs some clarification first as well, because when someone comes to us and starts using the words exposure, it turns us away right away as well, because that's just someone looking for something for free, really, for no reason. And we don't need that exposure either. But you've got industry events like WIPA events and things like that, where they're always looking for people to provide free services to showcase. You've got charitable events. You've got events that you are partners, might just maybe a planner that you work with is getting married, all sorts of things like that. So we do quite a few. First of all, I don't want to say I'm really big into charity, but we try to contribute charitably where we can. And there is one specific charity that pretty much any event that they're doing locally, because it's close to my heart. We provide a photo booth to them, regardless of what the event is. If it's a walk or if it's a big gala, whatever their budget is, we're always game to participate with what they're doing. And then we've got another
I think that's
charity.
key too, though, Jason.
Yes, and then there's another nonprofit here called Monday's Dark that is actually like a local show that happens every 2 weeks or every other Monday here, and they raise $10,000 for a different local charity every 2 weeks, and it's a really good organization that I'm proud to be a part of, and we actually donate a full lease to them every year. It sits at their space, and we donate that to help them raise awareness through social media. So people will use those photos and share it to social media, and we kind of help to do our part to spread the word about that event, just to get people there, because we want to see that continue. $10,000 every 2 weeks for a local charity is very powerful, and we want to be involved in that in any way we can. So charitably, that's what we do consistently. But obviously, like you said, free events do tend to get free events, get the attention of people wanting free events. And we do get a lot of people, especially like churches, that come in and talk to us about their low budgets and things like that. And we used to pretty much just turn all of them away. If it had something to do with raising money for children, we would consider it. We tried to set up some different protocols. But then at one point, like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, Catalina Block was actually sharing a free email template or questionnaire template that she sends to people asking for free booths, that pretty much puts them in a position where they've got to explain why they deserve a free booth, and not just a free booth, but why they should get like this free service in your free time and your free creativity, where it's valued so high, and also puts them to task to say how they're going to reciprocate if they're just asking for something for free and they're not going to offer anything in return, or if they've got sponsorship packages and how they can work you into those sponsorship packages. And we signed up for that, and we created something of our own and modeled it kind of after what she had there that fit our brand a little bit better. And that's been very effective because a lot of people that are just kicking tires won't take the time to fill it out. Like, we purposely made it kind of long, and it'll take someone 20 minutes to fill it out, which is not a lot to ask if they're asking for, thousands of dollars worth of free services.
Right.
And before we started using that, we never had anyone come to us and say, will you donate a booth and in exchange we'll give you X. They just would ask for a free booth. And that has really created a situation where people will actually say, we've got these sponsorship packages that we'll fit you into. And, sometimes it's promotions, just your name's on banners. Sometimes it's free dinners. Sometimes, it depends on what it is, but it gives us a lot more information, and we are able to look at our calendar and see what we have open that night. If it makes sense for us to donate to those. And one of the questions it asks everything. Where's the money going to? And be specific. Don't say it's going to help the homeless. We want to know specifically what you're using this money for. We want to know who's going to be there. Is it business leaders? Is it people from your neighborhood church? What are the ticket prices? If it's a $12 entry or free entry, we're probably not going to do it. If it's a $500 per head, and I'll see people in the groups also taking the wrong direction here. If they're charging $500 a head, they can afford a photo booth, and maybe they can, but they also have the clientele that I want to be in front of. So if someone can afford a $500 ticket, then those are the people that I want to be my clients, and I want to get in front of them. And if I'm doing something, I am going to be promoting ourselves, and I'm going to be putting our best foot forward. We're not ever just going to show up with a photo booth and props. We're going to do something that's going to blow people's minds and hopefully get a lot of social shares and get return business from that. As far as things like WIPA and associations, the same thing. If we've got the opportunity to showcase, right away we'll tell them we need to be the only photo booth on site. Like, don't ever try and have two photo booths showcasing, which should go without saying, but surprisingly we did one, and they had two photo booths. So they had one that was doing a 360, and they're like, well, it's a different thing. I'm like, well, It's not, though. It's the same industry. So we put that into our contract now that we've got to be the only photo booth company, and we've got to have full control. Like, you give us the theme and let us do whatever we want, because our goal. And it's so crazy because I'll go to these WIPA events and NACE events and see other companies showcasing their photo booth, and it's just a box of props and a photo booth with a backdrop. And this is your chance. Like, if you're going to donate, you're getting in front of every decision maker in the city. That's event coordinators, wedding planners, DMCs, which, if you're not familiar, DMC is a destination management company. They tend to they're the wedding planners of the conferences and things like that. They're doing bigger events. And if you're going to be getting in front of them, you should take that opportunity to do whatever you can. Don't say, I'm going to do this free event and I'm going to make it as cheap as possible so that it doesn't hurt my bottom line. Like, you really need to go all out and do the best thing that you possibly can, and make sure that whoever you're in front of remembers you, and that you're donating your time for a reason, and you're going to get some kind of feedback or results from that donated time. In fact, if I look at my finances over the course of my business, I could pretty much put my finger on the graph of the time that I showcased first for WIPA. It was a very, very big sway in my own company, because we did exactly that. We went big. We did a Vogue before anyone was doing Vogues. We did a Glamour before anyone was doing Glamours. So we did 2 for their annual gala. I think this is 2017 or something. And I say nobody was doing Glamour. Of course, a lot of people. I don't want someone to come back and say, I was doing Glamour since whatever year. But in Vegas, there was no one or very few people doing Glamour. And it blew the minds of all these planners. And we picked up a lot of partners just from that one singular event. And I had been going to WIPA events for a while before then. But I'm a bit of a wallflower. I don't go out and meet people instinctively. So a lot of the planners there didn't know me. They didn't know that I was a photo booth company, just because I'm not good at that sort of thing. So it really gave us the opportunity to provide a proof of concept and build that trust in showing people what we actually do and how we set ourselves apart from other people in the industry, where otherwise I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity, because those planners are already using other people. And a lot of people, they're trying to figure out ways to get in front of those planners, and they'll send them a box of chocolates. And, these planners have had relationships with people for years, and they're not going to use someone because they sent them a gift. So you need to get in front of them any way that you can. And one of those ways is showcasing at events like WIPA or NACE or things like that. So those are some of the free events that we participate in, and also our partners as well. If one of our partners, their kid's getting married, like, absolutely, we'll provide you a free photo booth. Like, if you're a wedding planner and you send us 10 jobs per year, I'm happy to do a free photo booth with you and keep that relationship. Because if I don't, someone else is, and I might lose that relationship over, a booth that's going to cost me just a few $100s, and that relationship is worth far more to me than that amount of money. So we do a lot of free events.
I think I think we should also be clear, like, when Jason says, if one of his planners' kids gets married, he's gonna go ahead and do a booth. There's the question of, like, planners who maybe have booked one event with you or none, and they approach you for a free booth for those kids. That's a whole different story. What Jason's talking about is, like, long-term relationship. Yeah,
like when I was new to the industry, I got a lot of people that were like, hi, I'm a wedding planner and my kid's getting married. Well, I'm looking for new vendors to add to my list. Will you provide a photo booth? And I fell for that trap a couple of times when I was new, but
they'll approach you like, oh, we're shopping for photo booth vendors, and they have you pitch to them. And then, like, a week later, they'll be like, oh, by the way, we have this nonprofit event, will you donate your photo booth? And it's like, it's a small event that, again, it's not the clientele that you're targeting. I think it's important to know, like, you're willing to set that time aside for, because, I've had people who have approached me like, oh, we're doing a 40th birthday party. We're going to have 10 friends, That's just not, I don't even know who your friends are. Like, what are your friends? Influencers, micro influencers? Is there a reason why, you think that this is going to benefit me? And I think what you said about, like, having people fill out a form, I really should incorporate something like that, because a lot of people are, they'll pitch things at you like it's a tax write-off. That's the common one.
Yeah,
It's a
not
tax
tax attorneys,
write-off.
but guys, it's not a tax write-off.
I mean,
You you can write off
but
the things that
the
you can
events, the
always
free
write
events,
off. Your wages and
consumables,
your
right?
just your hard
Yeah.
costs.
But yeah, that we do the same thing, like networking events where it's people in the industry, clientele that we do a lot of business with. Well, if their kids having a birthday party, of course we're going to do a photo booth. Again, that's part of the relationship building that you have with your clients. But choose wisely. Like, you're going to get a lot of pressure from people. People will sit there and say, we're going to do a celebrity event. It's a celebrity event. You're going to be, exposed to all these people. They're going to drop your name in social media. And, you don't know if that celebrity has the clientele that you are targeting. Just because they're a celebrity doesn't mean that you're going to book events with a free event. So being selective about who you decide to sponsor for. And then also, Jason, a big point you mentioned was, don't just bring a standard booth. You don't stand out if you bring a standard booth. If you're just doing photos, and even worse, strips, if you're doing photos and strips and props, there's nothing that you're showcasing that's going to be different to those vendors. And you're just going to be another photo booth that just happened to be there. They're probably going to think that it's just standard at their events, like bring something that, if everybody's offering glam booths, offer something else. If everybody's offering 360s, showcase something. It doesn't even have to be something ridiculously, niche or difficult. Like, I know for the longest time, a lot of us were doing DSLR booths, and roamers were still new at that time, and I know still now in this day, there's still a lot of events where people have never seen a roamer before. It's nothing spectacular about it. Just the fact that, it's someone with like this glowing ring that's walking around and moving in the event space. I mean, that leaves an impression on people that have never seen that. If your market is saturated with roamers, don't offer a roamer if you're going to sponsor an event. Offer something else that nobody else offers. And I often hear about people saying like, well, my market doesn't book that. My market doesn't book glam. My market doesn't really, they're not into 360s. Well, they're not into 360s. They're not into glam because it hasn't been something that a lot of that population hasn't experienced yet. Because once they experience 360, once they experience a roamer, things that are outside the box, once they experience it, it's going to wow them. They just haven't embraced it. Like in my own market, when I brought the glam booth filter to the LA market, which is, LA market is usually ahead of everybody else. I used to have people laughing at me, the idea of like a filter that smoothed out your skin. People used to think it was the most hilarious thing, and all the bridal shows that I did, all the networking events, all the sponsored photo booths that I did, I pushed glam for like a year. And it took about that long before people really started embracing it. And that's when the calls started coming in, So bring something that nobody else is offering, whether people book it or not. The goal of you sponsoring an event is not to book an event, but it is, but the goal is to make that lasting impression. You want them to remember, wow, that photo booth company that does this really cool thing that nobody else does. You want that impression when you're sponsoring a photo booth. You want it to be an investment of being memorable.
Yeah, and you, like you were mentioning, if by doing something that no one else is doing, even if it's something that you don't feel fits or is relevant to your market, you can be, like Lap said, you can be the industry leader that brings it to your market, and have everyone else in your market playing catch up with you, which is always a place you want to be. Or else, even if you're right and no one in that market will ever book that, they know you can do the easy stuff too. You're showing them the things that you can do that other people can't do, and that's what's really important.
Yes.
And a short story going along with that direct sample that includes both Lap and myself. About I don't remember what year, but several years ago, I developed a glam product and I was trying to sell it and I couldn't sell it. Like no one was interested. Everyone I got on the phone with, they just wanted a regular photo booth. So I threw in the towel on Glamour and decided we weren't going to do it. And I got on the phone with Lap and was venting my frustrations. And she recommended just what she just recommended to everybody here, to just do it. Go book a bridal show and just do glamour. Don't do anything else. And I took her advice and I did, and our glamour just exploded. From that bridal show, we just started booking so many glamour jobs, and then wedding planners saw the glamour, and that is probably in our social market still our most booked product still today is our glamour. And it was from me just putting out a product that I didn't think was selling well in our market. So exactly the example that Lab had talked about there.
Yes,
Also,
funny. I have
whenever
a different story, but similar, Jason.
Yeah, please.
Jason, I have a similar story, but different. So when I first did like my first high-end bridal show, I was like, okay, I really want to do glam. I'm gonna set this up. I'm gonna have them, experience this. All the brides loved it. They got the price of it, and everybody had a heart attack because this glam had not been embraced at that time in the LA market. So during the bridal show, I booked a bride, and knowing the area that the area that the wedding was taking place, the venue, it was like the venue I've always wanted to work at. I chose this couple, and I reached out because the sister surprised them with the photo booth. She booked the photo booth for her sister. So it was a surprise. So I let the sister know, you know what? We really want to show you how amazing this glam is. I know you guys experienced this at the bridal show, but we're going to upgrade you because it doesn't cost me anything. It's technically not a free event, but it is a free upgrade. So we upgraded them to the glam. It was GOT, Game of Thrones, which I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about it at the time. So we showed up, we upgraded them to the glam. They had like these I don't know if people say GOT or GOT, but Game of Thrones props that I had no idea what they were. And we surprised the bride and groom, and being very selective about upgrading that specific wedding. We just the same story as yours, Jason. Like we got so many to this day. So this was probably when I first started introducing booking glam. That was my first glam event. So I want to say it was like 8 years ago. And from that one wedding that we upgraded for free, we didn't lose money because we actually did book them for the wedding. We have consistently booked brides of their family, their friends. We've booked like baptisms with them. So for the last 8 years, we've just had people call in like, we want to book that glam. We want to book that glam. We saw it. So because it's like a group of friends and family that, they're all getting referrals from each other. So they just called, give us a date, give us a time and book it. So it's the same thing. My glam exploded because of that one specific event that I was like, okay, this is the market that I want. This is the area. This is the type of venue. This is the budget. We're going to upgrade you guys. And that's when my glam blew up, just like you. And then people started seeing like our glam work all over, social media and stuff. So that's how we grew that portion here in LA.
So exposure can pay the bills.
It definitely can. But it's about being selective. It's about being selective. You know that, Jason. It's about being selective.
Sure.
Because
very selective. Very selective because you will have a ton of people coming at you wanting free events, because free events do birth more free events, and you have to start telling people no. Like we do a lot, but we are very, very selective. And as well, like when you're new, obviously you need to get some of that footage. People will go and steal photos from people or ask for photos from people, when you could just have an event with your friends, a free event, and gather those photos. And we still do that today, being in our 11th year. Anytime we get a new product, our sales team starts looking for high dollar galas or charity events right away. And it's just kind of something that we've always done. Any new product, its maiden voyage always is donated to a charitable event. And that gives us a couple things. One, it puts our name into the community as a company that's always participating in charitable events, which we want to be part of that. And also gives us an event where things can go wrong because it's free. They know it's free. We're up front with them that it's a maiden voyage. We're testing things out. So it's okay if things go wrong. From the client standpoint, I can't think of any time anything did go wrong, because obviously we were testing intensively at the warehouse before, but it also gives us the time to collect all that footage, sample outputs. We'll have a photographer come and take photos of of the booth being used, or just a social media person, or just taking photos with on our phones and videos as well. So it gives you that opportunity to get content, both of clients using the experience or the service, whatever it is, and also output samples. And typically, if you're aiming at like a high dollar gala, not only are you going to be in front of people that might actually book that, but you're also going to get people that are dressed to the nines and they photographed well and they have nice suits on and things like that.
Better
that
content.
creates
Yeah.
good content. So that's something we've always done as well for free events. And also, like, track your free events. Whenever you do an event, mark it in as an event with a zero balance, so that you and take that into account when you're looking at your average job dollar. Count those free events as well. So if you've only done 2 events, one was $2,000 and one was free, you have an average job price of $1,000, not $2,000, because you're doing those free events. And we do a lot of them, and it helps us keep track of how many free events we're doing, and if we're doing too many, if our bottom line, our average ticket price is decreasing on a monthly basis, we can kind of track and see, because we know what our average ticket prices for jobs, even though we do jobs from $1,200 weddings to $10,000 multi-day events. We still know what our average job income is, and our $0 jobs factor into that number.
So what's your take on open houses? Because I know there was a discussion on the boards not too long ago about it, about like donating your services to an open house. What's your take on that, Jason?
They're a necessary evil. Like, open houses are like bridal shows that brides don't come to. Like, most open houses, I feel like, have like 12 people show up, and they're people that are coming to the venue because they're thinking about booking the venue, or they have booked the venue and they're just meeting the vendors that work with the venue. So really, you're just doing it to support the venue that's supporting you, that's giving you the work. So anytime someone invites us to an open house, we're glad to do it, because we're their partner photo booth, and whoever's going there, if they book the venue, they're going to have us anyways. So we're pretty much just supporting the venue when we do open houses like that, and we're happy that we're invited. But the time is slow. There's not a lot of people. You end up eating a lot of free cake samples and chatting with the photographer, and just hanging out most of the day. But it is a good time to just hang out with other vendors, because they typically are so slow. And maybe different markets, they're busier. I don't know. But our open houses that we do are typically, I don't know, maybe like 30 couples come through. They're typically very, very slow.
I love it. I honestly love, dude, I love open houses. I love that there's not a lot of people. I know people who like target bridal shows and they want like 2,000 brides showing up, but I don't agree. I don't think that more is necessarily better. I love when I'm invited to open houses, because it gives us the opportunity to showcase stuff that, we don't normally get to show. Sometimes some of the things that we do, we don't book yet. It takes us a while to book. So I love showing that at bridal shows. That's risky, because, most brides aren't going to be impressed by things that I love, like light paintings,
Mhm.
but like mosaic, showing off mosaic. But at open houses, I feel like the fact that there's only 30 couples works to my benefit, because that's an opportunity for you to really network. You said with the vendors, that's a huge part of open houses, networking with vendors and getting to know other companies that you maybe haven't had the opportunity to work with, that they didn't even know you exist. But just the intimacy of having the time, because I know when you do bridal shows, you're like rushing through, when we have bridal shows, we have like a long line, like I would easily say like 100 people deep, in line waiting to experience whatever we brought. But when you do
It
an
sounds
open
like you haven't
house
done
and
a
it's
bridal
30
show in a
couples and
while.
you're there for like
The bridal shows have
I did
changed
one
a
last
bit.
year. I did a
Really?
few
You saw
last
that
year.
had long lines? We haven't seen long
No,
lines in a while.
that's the reason. Yeah. This is like years ago when I first started.
Yeah.
But at open houses, the 15 or 30 couples that I get to meet, or our team gets to meet, I mean, like, we're able to really like have actual like conversation, like the real connection. Most of the couples that end up booking with the venue that attend the open house, they usually book with us too. So it's been really beneficial on my end to do open houses. Like I always figure like we're just booking. Like if they're booking the venue, they're booking us, you know, and
Right.
it makes the venue look good, which also makes us look good. And, you know, they refer us business because, you know, they don't want an open house that has no vendors that keep their prospects, you know, board and things like that. So it's a win-win for everybody. I love them. I know some people feel like they're giving away the work for free, but it's a great opportunity for relationship building and connection, like direct connect with your clients. And we've gotten a lot of referrals from the brides that get married at those venues that attend those open houses. We've gotten referrals to like their family members and friends. So it's helped us grow a lot. Like we had such steady business. And we, you know, like I try to think my venues that have us like as preferred, like I try to offer them like extra, what's that called? What do they call it? Value add-on. So like, you know, I'll offer them something that I don't offer the general public. Just because it's a like exclusive offering to that venue. And that's always worked well for me.
Yeah, in the respective vendors, I'm very, I don't know if introverted is even the word. I'm just very, I'm not very social. I'm a kind of socially awkward person. So going to mixers and things like that, I don't do well with meeting and building those relationships in that fast-paced environment. But when we're at a bridal show or an open house and like we spend, you know, 3 or 4 hours together with just 3 or 4 people, it's much easier for me to build the relationships there. So I've definitely built a lot more relationships with vendors at open houses and bridal shows probably than I have at industry level mixers and things like that nature. So it's a lot easier when you both have a booth next to each other. You're just hanging out, just chit-chatting, doing your thing, instead of I guess trying to find a conversation to talk about in your 10-minute meeting before you go and meet somebody else. But the same as a recent episode we did on networking, these couples that are coming to wedding shows, it's kind of the same thing. Like you mentioned, like it's more important to build those relationships than like it's always quality over quantity. We don't want to meet every single person at a wedding show. We're always wanting to just build a connection with someone when we're there. And I guess I don't want to get too far off on that because we could talk about bridal shows on a different show, but quality
another
over
episode.
quantity. Yeah. But so back to free events, exposure. Also, you will see a lot of times like D-level celebrities having their agents reach out for free booths, and they'll mention you on social media. And it's true. Like if they have money, if they're a celebrity, they should be able to pay for a photo booth. And there's very, very rare opportunities that's going to pay off. Obviously, companies like Mirror, that's been very successful for them. I don't know if the Kardashians pay them or not. I would guess they probably do, but their relationship with them has made them a very successful national brand. So there are times when that stuff makes sense. We've had several celebrities reach out, and most of the time they don't ask for free events, and some low-level celebrities do, and I don't think we really ever have, except for one time because it specifically made sense. It was a partnership between a property and a celebrity that wanted to do a photo booth at their wedding, and the celebrity actually didn't ask for the free photo booth. They were content with paying things, but we work with the property, and the property was using this wedding to do a lot of publicity photos,
Marketing
to be for their marketing, and also a magazine had the rights to this wedding, so they asked if we would come on board as their partner. So it was a no-brainer for us to begin with because it's a property that we do a lot of work with. So we want to be part of anything that they're doing that's part of their marketing and things like that. But this celebrity specifically is in the wedding world. She was on The Bachelorette a couple times. She had a very large social media following of people that were actively looking for wedding vendors. So she was popular in that respect. So her mentioning us on social media made a lot of sense, and at least we felt like it was. It did. So we worked out a contract, which I'll give another shout out to Ursula, because I had never done this sort of contract, and she, before I even knew Ursula, she commented that she would jump on a phone call with me, and that's how I actually met her, I think, is talking about this contract. And she didn't charge me anything for that. It was just her helping out. And we were able to nail down like who had the rights to what photos, and the magazine that had publicity, when we were able to, or they had the right to first post photos, this magazine that was tied to it, and we worked out when we would have the rights to post photos and what photos we could post of, and how many times this woman had to write about us and in what fashion, not just like book this company, but she kind of had to have her journey of looking for a photo booth vendor and deciding on us and why she decided on us. And then she had to post, her and members of her family had to post things from the wedding of the actual like outputs and things like that. And it actually was a very successful collaboration. We did book a lot of jobs from that. We secured a stronger relationship with our venue from that. We got some national publicity through this magazine. So like, don't always dismiss those opportunities right away when someone comes and says they're a social media influencer and they're looking for a free booth. Yeah, I agree. Like 98% of the time, it's garbage and it's not worth your time. Even if they have 1 million followers, who are those followers? Are they even relevant? But if it's an influencer that is in the wedding world, and that's the market that you're after, and her 10,000 followers are people that are looking for wedding vendors or are learning to get married. Like if you're have the opportunity to do something for like The Knot or Wedding Wire, obviously their client base is who you're after, so it would make sense. So don't dismiss those all the time. That was a pretty big event that we did for free. It paid off in spades, so sometimes exposure is good. But I wouldn't do very, very many of those. Like it depends. You really have to do a lot of research, and
it's always a gamble too. I feel like I feel like it's always a gamble too. Like even if they do have followers that are your target market, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll win business. So yeah, it's playing your cards, and sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. Yeah.
And that was a few years ago, and we still get the occasional, probably like every 3 months in the lead form, it'll say, I follow this girl on social media, and we're like, wow, this is still getting us leads. Fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was really good.
I don't know if there's any events that I sponsored for like, an influencer that brought me that kind of business. I know like networking groups, industry events, those are always beneficial, but influencer marketing, I can't say that I've seen any impact on my business sponsor. We didn't sponsor many, but the ones that we have sponsored, we didn't have, but yours is very specific. If she was like an influencer specifically to weddings, I mean, that was like if anybody approached me for that would be a no-brainer for me, because her entire following is your clientele,
Mm-hmm. And it's a lucky situation. I would like to participate in something like that. Again, I don't know how to search out like an influencers that are getting married in your area, but I would love to find one and participate and see if we could work out a longer agreement, like if they're getting married in like 18 months to work out like an ongoing something, even if it meant
You're
us
putting
paying
it out
them.
there.
Yeah. So if you're an influencer getting married in Vegas,
and you're
reach
listening,
out to me. We're really getting married anyway. We'll work it out. We'll make it happen. There was something.
What other kind of free events do you think there are, Jason?
Other free events.
I mean, is there any other kind? Industry mixers, charity events, open houses, industry partners.
Yeah,
I think that's
it's kind of all I can really think of. like we've been saying, like be very selective. Like the industry event or the associations, like they'll take advantage of you as well. Just make sure it makes sense. Like I've talked to a lot of people that said they've done one for their local chamber of commerce and it wasn't very successful. But again, like chamber of commerce is, how many of those people are getting married, you know, or having a landmark celebration or a mitzvah? You're talking to tons of realtors and life insurance salesmen and financial planners. Like those three areas are like the bulk of most chambers. The most benefit we get out of chambers, and the only time we would ever consider doing a free event for a chamber, is like a couple months before Christmas, and we would really hit holiday Christmas parties in our marketing for that event. But I don't even know if I would do one for the chamber then, just because of like the companies that are there. I don't know if they're having large.
I think if the chamber itself is throwing like a ball or a gala, that would definitely be something that I would consider sponsoring, like where they invite, you know, multiple chambers, you know, to one gala and, you know, invite all their members. That would be something that might be something I'd sponsor, because you're not just talking about, you know, you never know what other chambers, especially since not all chambers exactly the same, you know, like a chamber of commerce in Hollywood is going to be a lot different than a chamber of commerce here in my area, you know? So,
yeah, and there's all other like industry associations that you should be keeping an eye on too. For example, we're a member of an apartment association, and all these apartment complexes are supposed to use people from that association's vendor list first. And obviously it's a lot of like pest control and painting and roof repair and stuff like that. But apartment buildings also host holiday parties and summer pool parties, and they have different events for their people, and they'll host a photo booth in their office when they're doing like showcasing different apartment styles and having like their own open house to bring people in. So like that industry has a lot of use for photo booths that a lot of people don't capitalize on. And the best way, like we go to these networking events and we hang out with these apartment managers that you know we typically have nothing in common with, but we're the only ones there, you know. So it's very valuable. And there's a lot of associations like that. You just have to kind of look at associations and see how photo booths might fit into that world and join that association. Meet people outside of. So obviously, when you go to WIPA, there's going to be like 4 other photo booth companies there, you know. So go somewhere where there's no other photo booths. There might not be as much business, but you're going to get all the business.
That's interesting. I'm going to add the apartment one. I'm going to add that one to look into.
Yeah. So, join those different associations. Do your research. Don't just do all your free events, because, like we've said, they will. Especially, nothing against churches, but if you do a free event for a church, that church will have your number on speed dial. Like we stopped doing events for almost all churches because word spreads fast amongst churches, and they end up having way more events than you could ever imagine. Obviously, if you're a member of a church and you want to participate in their events, then that's, you know, a personal thing. But we don't do.
Did you grow any businesses? Did you grow any business from it, Jason? Did you like book any events from the church events that you sponsored at all?
No, we haven't sponsored church events for many years, but we certainly didn't book anything. I mean, like the people that are going to church events, they're just your average person. So, you know, what percentage of your average people are having a wedding or Sweet 16 or some kind of thing that would justify renting a photo booth, and then what percentage of your average population can afford you as a photo booth. So the pool that is seeing you there just isn't large enough to make it worth your time as far as exposure. You really need to be doing it because that's a church that you believe in and you want to participate in what they're doing. Maybe it would make more sense
or
with like a Jewish church because everyone has mitzvahs. Yeah, if it's an area that I think with affluent people.
Space, yes, I think that matters too. So again, you have to assess what you're being approached with and if it's a good fit.
Yeah, and when we stopped doing free events for churches, Man, I don't know why it's churches specifically, but they became such time wasters for us. They would go back and forth with prices and try and nitpick and try and get us to come down and try to meet us in the middle. And then ultimately at the end, it would say, oh, we found someone in our congregation that has a photo booth. And, you just wasted all of this time talking with us. So,
I don't get too many churches, but I do experience that with reunions. I get that with reunions. It's the same back and forth.
Another approach you can take if you're getting a lot of charitable events asking you to provide photo booth services for you, a lot of them, first of all, have budgets. Just because they're a charitable event doesn't mean they don't have budgets. Like I've been on the board of a few different charities and nonprofits and things like that. And when we would certainly try to get free services from companies, but we always had operating budgets for our events. But you try to get free stuff first, and usually you can get free stuff. But also, there's always companies that are willing to donate money and sponsor different parts of these events, and that's another thing that has really been successful in this apartment association I'm with, because they do a lot of events, and most of the events they pay us for everything. And most of the events this association does, they don't pay us specifically. One of their partners will pay for us, like the roofer or the painting company that works with them will sponsor the photo booth, because then they get their branding on the photo booth and they get their branding on the outputs and the digital outputs, and it's good for them as well. It gets their name in front of all the people that they want to be in front of also. So if there's a charity that's trying to get you to donate their photo booth, maybe ask for their sponsor list and ask if it's okay if you find someone to sponsor the photo booth for them, and reach out to these sponsors, because at the end of the day, being the photo booth sponsor is way more valuable than having your name at the back of some program that someone's going to maybe look at when they get there and then throw away, on their way out of the event. Getting your logo on every photo that is delivered during that night and shared to social media is far more valuable. And also, if you can come to them, if it's something that's trying to raise money, and say, at the bottom of every output, every time we send a photo or a video via text message, at the very bottom of that, we can put a donate button to help raise funds for your event, even months after your event's over, where everything on site ends as soon as the event ends. That's also very powerful. And then once you start building a list of these companies that are willing to pay for a photo booth, to sponsor the photo booth, to have their logo placed on the photo booth, then you could start telling people when they call and say, hey, will you sponsor a photo booth? You could say, no, but I've got this list of different companies that like to sponsor photo booths. Do you mind if I reach out to one of them? And then maybe this random company that's never been associated with this charity before loves sponsoring photo booths. Just think of any attorney in your town, and in Vegas, NACV comes to mind. I can't go anywhere from billboards to sporting events. Like, NACV is absolutely everywhere. And there's a very good chance, we've never reached out to him, but there's a very good chance that he wants his name on all kinds of photo booths at different charitable events as well. So there's tons of companies out there that will pay for the photo booth, even if the charity or the event that's asking you to sponsor won't pay for it. So there's always that different avenue to take to still get paid. And if you're doing that, again, like we were talking about with going and doing whip events, go all out. Like, sell them the big package that's going to get them the most exposure. Wrap the booth, make sure their logo's on everything, make sure there's donor, learn more about this company, links on your microsite. Like, make sure they're getting the maximum exposure so that they're going to want to come back and participate with you in the future. And I think that about wraps up free events. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm curious if you actively search out companies that are looking to sponsor photo booths, because I know that's something that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about. Are you actively searching for these companies that have a list waiting for you to approach them for a community event or a big festival where they can sponsor? And
we do have a short list, but we never actively searched out people. We created our list in the beginning when we were doing different events and saying, hey, we want this company to sponsor the photo booth, or they booked us, and we noticed that some company was on the photo booth, some company's logo was on the photo booth, but it wasn't the the events logo, we started noticing that, and we started reaching out to these people and asking, like, how did this happen? They're like, oh, it's just a sponsorship that they had like the gold level and the different thing, and you could sponsor the photographer, you could sponsor the mill, or you could sponsor the photo booth, and I just chose the photo booth. And so we started building our list organically just from people that already had a history of donating money for a photo booth, and just keeping those names on hand and building a relationship with them and asking, are there other events that you want to participate in? Because we get a lot of times people are like, hey, will you donate a photo booth? And it doesn't make sense for us. But if you want to, if it makes sense for you to donate the photo booth or pay for the photo booth, we can connect with you in the future and do that. So that's how we built our list.
Yeah, have you guys approached, so these nonprofits that reach out to you, have you tried suggesting like adding a photo booth? Because I know a lot of these nonprofits have like sponsorship levels, like silver, gold, premium, platinum, right? And they have specific things, exactly what you described, like, the name in the back of the flyer or in the bag or whatnot. Have you and your team approached those nonprofits about building in a photo booth package as a sponsorship level? Because I know there's tons of nonprofits that have those different levels, but not many have photo booth listed in there yet. Like, I don't know if it's fully embraced.
There are a few
in
that do, and it's kind of difficult because once they're reaching out to you, like, they've already got that collateral printed out and whatnot and designed. So like, you can communicate with them and do it like the next year, but a lot of times I don't think they could really incorporate it for the event that they're calling you about. But it would make sense to follow up with them,
start building
next
on
year
that.
and try.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah,
like, these
I've
charity
attempted
golf
that.
events, especially, like, find out the sponsors for the charity golf events, because charity golf events, everyone, like, every hole is sponsored by someone. These are all people that recognize the value of paying to have their logo somewhere. Like, every charity golf event, look at the whole sponsors, because those are people that all those people are people that I see frequently on our photo booths at different events.
It's a good tip.
Thank you. And with that, we'll wrap up free events. Hopefully there's some useful stuff there for you. Again, the biggest thing is research. Do your research. Don't just jump into an agreement or a partnership with anybody. Make it make sense on both sides. I know a lot of times in this industry, we're doing a lot of free things because we want to be respected, or we want to be seen, or we want to do things for people that like, we're always the ones that are, seems like a very one-sided relationship a lot of times, but make it make sense. Like, don't do free events for people that aren't booking jobs for you or giving you jobs. Make sure it's a two-way street, and that it makes sense for your company as well, beyond just getting exposure. Because most of the time, I mean, look at your weddings. Like, a lot of times people will say, oh, we get a lead or a referral from every wedding that we do. But I mean, logistically, sure, you're handing out a business card, but are you really booking a job for every wedding that you do? Because if you are, you should be doing more free weddings, because that'll get you all the jobs that you need. Realistically, you're not getting
Right.
and typically someone that's getting married knows people that's getting married, so that should be like a kind of a captive audience. Like, all those bridesmaids are probably engaged or will be getting engaged soon, so it seems like it should make sense to do free weddings to get that exposure. But we know that it doesn't make sense. Like, that, sure, we get leads here and there, and we book X events from weddings here and there, but it's not enough to keep us full. And if you do one wedding for someone for free, then those bridesmaids that are getting married soon will also want you to do that wedding for free.
A free booth.
So, and it's the same thing. Like, if you're doing a free event, they're going to tell people, yeah, call this company because they'll do it for free. So
Yeah,
keep that
because
in
news
mind.
travels fast.
Yeah. So if it doesn't make sense to do it for a wedding, like, it doesn't make sense to do it in many places. Make it make sense. Come join us on Facebook. Pro Booth
TikTok.
Talk community. Photo Booth Talk, TOK on TikTok, YouTube, Pro Booth Talk, all the places. Come hang out. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Help to keep this free information coming. Subscribe to Pro Booth Talk in iTunes or Stitcher Radio. And while you're there, be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Finally, watch for show updates at facebook.com/ProBoothTalk.